Hey, it's Rod from Centercode. So now that we've created our own project and we've set up some onboarding, I'm going to go ahead and work on some test planning. So I'm going to click on Management, Test Planning, and I'll arrive at the test planning page. Now, on the beta edition of the platform, we go ahead and create a getting started phase that lasts for 2 weeks from the time you create the project. Now, if we wanted to change that, we could click on it and we could nudge the date left or right to make it work a little bit better. And you can see I've gone through and I've created a couple of different features here. And so let's work on creating another phase and adding a feature to it. So working off the same example, we're working with a wireless Bluetooth speaker. And, after February 26th, we're going to move into our next phase of testing where I know we're going to need to do a firmware update. So I'm going to go ahead and click Create a Phase. I'm going to call this one Advanced Usage. I'm not going to give it a description, and I want it to start after the getting started phase ends in February 27th, and I would like it to be a week long, which is the default that we have here. So I'm going to hit Publish, and now we've published the phase. If you're not certain that, once you publish it, it will be available to post features in, and then testers will see those features once they're signed. So if you wanted that to not go public, you could just save it, but just remember to publish it prior to getting to that point in the test. And if you're using Ted, he'll go ahead and remind you to publish it before you get too far. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a feature called Firmware Update. And I have two options. I could add it to the phase list features list and then move it into the phase I want, or I could just add it directly to the phase. So I'm going to click New Feature. And then here, again, it's set up for advanced usage. I could pick any of the phases to assign it to. And then I'm going to call this one Firmware Update, and I'm going to say OTA. Update the firmware of the speaker through the mobile app. And then my first step is going to be, let's ensure the mobile app is installed. Navigate to the product, click Settings, click Check for Update, update the device. And this should be tap. And we're good. That's kind of enough general direction on how to go forward with the firmware update. And we're going to go ahead and submit this. So now we have a feature in our second phase of testing, which is not currently active. We can tell that from the green bar here. And let's talk about a couple of things here on the feature list that we might have skimmed over. If you're on the beta edition, you don't necessarily have access to adjust these, but in Delta, where you get insight into impact scoring and whatnot, we open up feature value. So right now it's neutral. But let's say that I really cared about firmware update. I could assign it to high or very high, or likewise, if I didn't care about it as much, I could assign it to any of these categories. I'll give you full control. Negate would be useful for if you had a feature in here because there was maybe a step that testers need to go through that you didn't really care about feedback on, but you wanted to know if they had a problem. A great example would be if they had to download the mobile version of a beta app through Google Play or TestFlight, where you can't really impact that process, but testers probably need to do that. So you could go with none and it just wouldn't generate any scoring and it wouldn't influence your results at all. So we'll go ahead and cancel out of there since we're pretty good with that. And then the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we have TED set up. So once TED is set up, he's going to go ahead and interact with your testers, let them know what's going on. And he's also going to send you some daily Scrum updates. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Management, Project Configuration, and TED settings. Again, you could get through this from the Project Kickoff dashboard. I've got TED up and running so you can kind of see how TED operates, but otherwise you would go through a quick video to explain how TED works and then you'll arrive here. So there's two focuses, as I mentioned, the tester messaging and the admin messaging. So for testers, welcome messages, kind of let testers know what's going on in the project, like welcome in and here's what we're going to be focused on. If they've never tested with you before, they'll explain the process of issues, ideas, and praise. Smart engagement reaches out on a regular cadence of testers to make sure that they're engaging with the test and submitting enough feedback and completing activities. Really important to have that on. And then finally, a thank you for participation when we get to the end of the test. On the admin side, TED will send you daily Scrum updates. send some phase progress and closure updates. Anytime that we hit certain milestones, like reaching your tester target, you'll get an email from Ted. And then if there's anything serious going on, whether it's testers being blocked by activities, or we're getting some blocking issues submitted, or even, forgetting to publish the test, like I mentioned earlier, Ted will go ahead and let you know that that's going on. And that's kind of mandatory on, if you're running Ted, you'll get all that. So we'll go ahead and we'll submit this, make sure that stays on. And then I'll kind of just show you an example of a TED message. So I have a tester here, Austin, that I'm going to type in their name up here and click on. It's going to take me to their user summary, where I can see kind of what they've been doing in the project. Really neat. We'll dive into this a little bit more in the tester side of it. But I'm going to click on email, and I'm going to click on TED emails. So I just turned on TED today, so I don't have a lot of stuff yet, but I'm going to click on Austin. And here we can see Ted sent him an email welcoming Austin to the project. Because I brought Austin in midway through the test, it's kind of a catch-up email for what's going on in this phase, as opposed to if Austin was in the test prior to the phase beginning, he'd get a welcome to the getting started phase email. So everything about TED is catered to where we are in the journey. There's some machine learning on the back end about when Ted reaches out. Really helpful. And then on the flip side, I'm going to go ahead and take a look at my own profile here, and I'll show you kind of some of the emails that Ted sends us on the admin side. So here's a great example of a warning email where I had 2 testers complete an activity with 2 or more blocking results in the setup category. So that's something that, Ted is saying is really important to you and what's going on there. And this type of stuff is really helpful. We also see that there's a recommendation that we might want to extend our getting started phase, and another reminder that it's ending in a few days. So here we can see we haven't quite hit our feedback goals. Ted's recommending we extend the phase so that we can go ahead and hit that. So really helpful. There's a whole lot more to see once you get in here. The daily Scrum updates are really neat to find out, how each aspect of your project is doing. The last thing we're going to talk about here is content. So content is a great way for you to communicate with your testers. You have 2 fixed types here. You have project updates and tester resources. And whenever you add content to these categories, you'll see them here when you click on the project name. You see I have project updates. So let's say that we wanted to add frequently asked questions. I could come in here and just call this an FAQ, and then, question 1, answer 1. We could go through and put all the FAQs in there, or even, known bugs, things that we already know about we don't need testers to submit on. You could add that here. I'll go ahead and hit preview, and I'll publish this. And now we'll have the category up here. We have tester resources, and testers will see that there's some new content there, which is really helpful. And then, that about does it for setting up your test. Once you do this, Ted will kind of take the reins and run the project for you. Be super helpful. In the next video, we're going to go through the tester experience and kind of see what that loop is like and how they start generating feedback for you. All right, I'll see you there.